waking, dreaming, deep sleep, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, waking, dreaming, deep sleep. That's not who you are. This is coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. But what illumines it all, what strings them all, is your awareness. And that awareness doesn't know sleep, doesn't know hunger, doesn't know pain. This is the understanding. This is what we really work with in the monistic systems from the perspective of the Atmast reality, applying highest upaya.
In my daily life, I experience a lot of pranatana when I'm lying in bed. And a good deal of the time, I just wake up about 5 o'clock and then maybe spend 2 hours in that state or until I have to get up. But sometimes, when I get into bed at night, it starts to happen immediately. And it isn't something I can really resist. And on the one hand, I feel very blessed because I experience it as an unfolding process of release. On the other hand, sometimes I'm really suffering from a lack of sleep, and which I find quite difficult. And I just wondered, and it may be, after listening to what you were saying this morning, that it's more the deep sleep that I'm missing out on, because often I can be in that state and kind of going into the dream state a little bit and still being aware of the energetic processes going on. And I just wondered if you had any tips about how I might get a bit more deep rest. I could give more of the background, but perhaps that isn't necessary.
The importance here is to understand what is going on to begin with. In other words, what is happening, right? So this waking, this dreaming, and deep sleep. Obviously, we are programmed culturally, and not just culturally. This is also where that, let's say, programming is universal, cosmic programming. That waking state of consciousness is considered to be, rightly so, as the fullness of the experience. After all, that's where we interact, right? Whatever we build, whatever castles we build in the dream state, they are being awashed by the first ray of the morning sun when we are out of bed, to put it that way. So whatever we may build there, whatever castles, whatever sun castles, whatever amazing life we may live in a dream, as Carlos Castaneda would have it, we can have parallel life, right? You can have life here and you can have an alternative life. Maybe this life didn't quite pan out. The marriage didn't quite work, the career, the business, this, that, like achievement. But in my other life, I am a force to reckon with. Wait until the night comes, can't wait. There is something to it, of course, what Carlos Castaneda was dubbing with. And I could tell you some wild stories, maybe at other immersions, which connects myself with Carlos Castaneda, close friend, when we lived in Central America. I'll leave this out now. But the importance is here, of course, was bring the reminder of the importance or equal, let's say, importance of all three relative states of consciousness, so that we don't somehow assume that only what's happening in the waking state counts, and everything that happens in dreaming state, and let alone deep sleep, is somehow belongs to non-consequential affair with regard to this life. And therefore, why bother even to think about, but then again, why do we sleep at all? It's important to find out, why do we sleep? Why would nature design us in such a way that we have to sleep. So this is where it makes it where it really, really interesting. If we leave it aside for the moment, why do we sleep at all? Why? Neurophysiologically, of course, the answers were already given, right? It's because the nervous system cannot function in one modus operandi. It is measurable. Brain wave activity changes. So, therefore, sleep here and the fact that we spend, what, 1/3 in sleeping, something like that, of life? I forgot about the statistics, but some staggering thing like that, where you have a business of selling beds. That's how you appeal to the customers. Invest in your bed. After all, you spend, a chunk of your life here. So, but when it comes to this of having, let's say, somatic experiences, when we feel our sleep pattern is interrupted, it's a big topic. Rule of the thumb is, if we are not asleep, not because of some disturbances in our, let's say, constitution that we somehow subjected to, which needs to be ruled out and adjusted always. That is, we need to make sure that we respect these workings of Prakriti, right? Mother Nature, workings of how we are, in a way, designed, lined up, and wired. So to rule out, for example, I'm talking to the obvious at the moment, right? Obviously, if someone takes 2 shots of double espresso past 6 o'clock, it might keep you up. For me, espresso doesn't work. It doesn't matter how much coffee I drink, I sleep. But strong tea, which I love drinking, I need to really be attentive. If I'm late with my kind of afternoon tea enterprise, then the likelihood that I will push the hours when I will begin to feel sweetly drowsy and dozy will be pushed well past midnight. So, in other words, none of the substances that keeps us up, right? So, I'm just saying that to everyone so that we don't somehow assume, injecting all the stuff into the body, including exciting information, exciting this, exciting that. And then, of course, there is this frequencies, right? These hours, these Muhurtas in Sanskrit. Hours, the importance of the hours. I mean, we're doing this. Maybe next gathering here, we should dedicate entirely to that. How our daily cycles, rhythms are, in fact, ruled, governed by particular qualities of energy. This is maybe will be better to give a crash course in just grounding Samkhya philosophy that deals with this, with precision, clarity of understanding, because it gives a lot of attention to that department of what are the constituency of Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The very, very, the spokes of wheel, rotating wheel of whole entire Indian philosophy. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Understanding of this makes us, in a way, aware of what's going on behind the scenes. Are you aware about these energetic qualities with which Mother Nature performs everything?
Do you mean in the context of Ayurveda?
Yes. Well, in the context of Ayurveda and yoga, of course. But it's not just in the context of Ayurveda. According to Samkhya philosophy, which is at the basis, of course, of all the Ayurveda and yoga and daily life, is that there are hours of Rajaguna, Tamaguna, and Sattvaguna, when they are predominant. And that in turn corresponds to the circadian rhythms. These are the circadian rhythms spoken within the tradition. So what I'm saying here now is that one needs to get to the bottom of what is happening when, for example, at a certain time, from 10 to 2, it's an hour of Raja Guna. Okay? And it's also the time which corresponds to the Pitta as a dosha. And this is when there is a lot of activity that is required to metabolize experiences taking place. So in other words, it's kind of like a logical way of closing the day, right? So whatever we experience throughout this day, at approximately around 10 p.m. comes this quality of fire. This comes quality represented by Pitta dosha, these hours of the metabolizing quality of awareness. So at this time, we, as it were, digesting, metabolizing all experiences throughout the day. It's also the time when we can get hungry. So, for example, if someone whose constitution has this fiery aspect more than someone else, if you skip the dinner and then at 10 o'clock, at 10 p.m., you suddenly start to feel hungry. And that explains why. A whole, like 70% of the population of Spain goes out to eat in the summer at 10. Mm-hmm. I live in Spain, so I kind of like know what I'm talking about. My own children enter the kitchen past 10 o'clock just to decide what they want to eat. Nightmare. It's like kitchen never closes. All this goes into this. We will get to the bottom of that. What I want you to understand is that, so this is the time when all experiences get metabolized. From 10 to 2, it's the time the best for recreation. In fact, if we catch sleep at that time, between midnight and 2 a.m., it's the most rejuvenative sleep. And I'm, of course, guilty, as found, not respecting it very often myself. But this is the best time because the quality of the sleep is the best. Everything is metabolized, burned in a nice way. So, furthermore, because then will come Vata time, which is governed by air, from 2 to 6. Right? Correct? Knows of Ayurveda. Anyone here? No? Yeah, that's what it will be, because it's every 4 hours. So this will be Vata time. This is why Vata people wake up at that time. That's when the disturbance and sleep for Vata constitution, which you are dear very much in terms of your phase of life and maybe constitutionally as well. So that means you are double Vata. It is possible that you are Vata in Prakriti and now Vata in Vikriti. Right? So which means that this is the hours when your sleep most likely will be disturbed as a given. You see? Already between 2 approximately and 6 before the kapha time comes. This is why it's difficult. It's easier to get up early or earlier, because when we enter the kapha time and if we kind of like, governed by that dosha to a large degree, it's like, oh, that's so nice to sleep. Give me another half an hour. Give me another half hour. Because this is already into like what takes us all the way to, 10 in the morning. And then we can carry on like till midday, like teenagers do. Now, Vata time is the time at night when is the sleep most likely will be disturbed. In waking state, which is characterized by the acuity of the activity of the senses for the satisfaction of the mind, right? That's why mind gets its outer expression, drawn out. And senses are only eager to provide. When that phase wanes, and we will talk about it more, then the senses are withdrawn into the mind, you see? And that, of course, is accompanied by the withdrawal of the senses out of the respective organs of cognition, obviously, because organs of cognition are here for the sake of the expressive potentiality of the sense organs, right? So all that, what we call then body, is resting. It's in that mode. So the acuity of the sense perception is greatly diminished. We faintly hear things, we faintly smell things, right? Maybe sense of touch remains the most acute, but as we withdrew deeper and deeper into rest, then even that would, effectively speaking, withdrew into the mind. But we speak about it in terms of withdrew into the mind in a dream state. As it will begin to get withdrawn into the deep sleep, which is, effectively speaking, now senses are no longer active, mind revels within itself. It doesn't have outer outlet, so it just left within its own domain. This will be significant to understand the nature of Samadhi and the connection between deep sleep and Samadhi. Because in the dream state consciousness, this is what happens. Mind revels within itself. That's what dreaming state, this is the realm of the subconscious. So this is why this is, as a suggestion, important and equally important state of consciousness, because it corresponds, or expressive realm of the subtle, the expressive realm of the psychic. This is the psychic domain. This is where the psychic information is fully released. This is where the Jungian dream psychology is based on. All that what cannot express itself in waking state for the reasons that are governed by the mind. Mind is in control. It doesn't allow. Conscious mind cannot deal with that. This is the situation of the Greek myths. It cannot solve the riddle, so therefore it refuses to deal with that, or programmed not to deal with that, because you cannot be conscious in waking state if there is this shadow of something falling of that information. So in order for us to function, nature designed it in such a way that it would be pushed to the subconscious. And in a dream, this begins to express itself. That's the importance of dreams. Like any rudimentary material on that, like reading Jung, dream interpretation will give us profound insights, right?
Yes.
So, but what happens then? Then the mind is being pulled by the pranic forces, because in a deep sleep, all prana gathers back into the heart. All 5 pranas, all 5 major pranas, all of them, prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana, all are withdrawn into the heart. And that withdrawal into the heart of all the pranic activity is what translates into the deepest rest and what equals to the experience in Samadhi. So this is why I said earlier this morning that it is granted that every human being have a glimpse of Samadhi every night. It's a cousin of Samadhi. So Sushupti, deep sleep, is a cousin of Samadhi. It's a Samadhi which is necessary as air we breathe, as water we drink. So meditation on the heart here has that significance, is that because we emulate already that movement. All the movements are like this, oozing out, right? all the movements are like this all the time. And this at the tremendous expense of prana going out. In this case, it's a reversal of that movement and withdrawal into the heart, where the pranic forces will be appeased and at rest anyway. So that meditation, you see, creates that possibility for, it's almost like rehearsing the steps, if you will, for lack of other, before you can really perform, you do these steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how I'm withdrawn in the heart. Of course, it happens naturally. But as we will speak to this more, because this is where those who are, let's say, audacious enough can work. This is where the sadhana can go from sadhana with eyes open or sadhana with eyes closed during the day, during the activity of meditation, to that what belongs to the kind of lesser known domain of yoga nidra, yoga of sleep, yoga of conscious sleep. So this is why what I advise to all and everyone is to make sure that whenever you go to sleep, irrespective of how busy your lifestyle or how lazy your lifestyle or how you are accustomed, that point of going into sleep, it's literally as taking off not only your garments that you wore throughout the day, but you're taking off consciously that what the sense of identity there. You kind of like taking out all that uniform. You are welcoming that where you are given to the eternal waters of the being, of the self. So this is an attitude, and it can be accompanied by some little something, whatever. Like no matter how tired I am, and with raising kids, some nights like you just want to lie down on a carpet and sleep on a rag, like literally flat. And yet, just I know if I had to measure end of the day and the body is laying down, I will sit up and there will be like a kind of informal prayer, gratitude with my own, let's say, symbology, with my own, let's say, deities, whomever I chose to worship, where I lay that and give myself to. No matter how tired I am, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the activity was I involved with. I maybe was an amorous embrace with my wife where I could just gladly fall asleep snoring next to her. Or maybe I just had one too many, shots of sake. Also will be very nice just to drift and doze off. No, because it's important. One activity finished, waking state finished. I'm consciously bidding it farewell and going into sleep. You see? The same way we could say, ideally should be when we wake up as well. So we consciously enter any state, consciously transit. So this is in a way a discipline, a yoga in its own right. So we can take food because like, oh, I'm hungry. Yeah, what do you have? Pickle here, pickle there, hot dog, sandwich. Fine, fantastic. Life should be lived naturally. But there is also another attitude, right? Each time I put something into myself as a nourishment, it's a kind of act. And it's a conscious act. Even if I'm going to eat now a forbidden item that I know going to cause a bit of violation of the gunas or the doshas, right? At least I do that with that, a bit of that, right? Consciously doing things wrong. The worst thing is when we do things unconsciously. So this going back to the realm of how to deal with this. So first is to remove any of that psychological tension that you are not having enough rest, because you need to understand where the rest is taking place. So you kind of also already gave yourself a hint that the best and the deepest rest is in a deep sleep. This is where the real rest takes place. So you can even enter that with greater awareness. Entering that with greater awareness. And also when you give yourself to this kriyas, like whatever goes through the body. So if you sit a little earlier, a couple of hours, let's say, if you go to sleep around 9, 10, you sit around 7, 8, right? Or if you eat your supper a little earlier, even earlier than that. But then still you're about to retire, but you still feel there is this electricity, you feel this propensity for the body to vibrate. You give yourself to that consciously, as I no doubt you do, right? Because you can't hold it back, you can't withhold that. So best is to lie down on your back and just simply relax completely. Maybe with your palms, not like this, like they do in Sharvasana in yoga classes, but like this, okay, on your thighs, like this, on your thighs here, as you lay down. Or maybe like this, doesn't matter, right on the heart or left on the heart, you see, maybe both on the tummy. Not like this.
Why not?
Because you're not a corpse, okay? And because this is the way, okay? This makes the prana ooze out, you see? This movement is one way, the way energy is now works, and that is another. That's what I mean, okay? And this, you're closing the circuit. But it's okay if you can put it on, so you lie down like that. I don't want to go into now that intricacy of all this. This shall suffice. See? Whatever. This is receiving and giving at the same time. This is converting. Okay? And give yourself to that movement. Give yourself to that movement completely. Okay? So let the wave go. And you will learn, you will know how that wave is generated, and almost there will be this intuitive connection made when you know, not like, okay, now a little bit more, and now it's like real, one good wave. It's like the waves on the sea. It's like little tremble, and a wave, like this. Every whatever, the P, whatever that, right? Pi, that pi, in the way the waves are, that every surfer knows that. Small, but the big wave is coming because too many small waves in a row, big one got to come. And then that big wave shakes your body, moves through you. See? You give yourself completely to that. It will do this wonders, adjustments. This is the highest self-therapy in the world. They try to create the conditions so that the body can shake, because shaking body is a science, right? There are methodologies made, so people are little electric shocks are given, or just loosen up, trance dance, whatever, just loosen up, and this is suddenly does its own thing. It's a marvel, it's magic, it's magical. And then you feel, okay, that's now enough. Okay, that's good. Now it's time to rest. Okay, it's time to rest. Whatever relationship, connection you have, see, it's goddess moves through you as you. So you plead with the goddess, right? Because she's the mother also. Okay, now lull me into sleep. Just rest, okay? And you turn on either of the sides, whatever is most comfortable. Because it's not good to sleep on the back. It's not good to sleep on the back. You see? You are Shava, you are Rogi, or you're a yogi. This is like you are either corpse or you sleep on the as a enjoyer or as a yogi. Yogi sleeps on the right side. Why? Because he cools the system. Rogi sleeps on the left side because he wants more solar energy, more energy to enjoy. But since we're householders, we can be like a pancake, you know? A little bit on this side, a little bit on that side. But we don't sleep on the back because that's a corpse pose. Okay? So any one of you who have habit of sleeping, one thing is resting, right? It's fantastic. But it's not good to sleep. Equally not good to sleep on your stomach. Unless therapeutically you want to stretch. It's very good at night for those who suffer any discs, any kind of like lower back problems. You do this gentle cobra in bed. You know, if you like happen to travel, lift cases, or just had too much, you know, dead lift or something like that, and you want to make sure you release that. So you just push yourself up ever so gently on elbows, on your tummy, then you roll to the side. So what side do you prefer to sleep now? You need to know your favorite side. You need to know where it feels most lulling, soothing. You roll on the right, you will activate the solar channel and your body will begin to warm up. See? It will give you warmth. It will be solar sleep. You roll on the right, you suppress the solar, you open up the lunar. So your sleep will be more cooling, soothing, lulling. See? In more of that quality. And you need to know. You want to feel more vital, right? You feel then sleeping on the left will be more vital, obviously. More pranic sleep in that sense. More activating so that your senses have more imbued with that solar activity. But why do they say yogic sleep on the right is more yogic? Because it soothes and cools the passion. It appeases the senses rather than induces them. There are even sadhana. Someone is like, you want to find out? 14 days in a row, making sure you sleep on the right side, like disciplinedly, and you will see the changes. I'm not saying that to you, dear. I'm saying that in general. It will be like prescribed. You want to test it? Do that. And then you will see how it will bring that lunar quality into your life and appease a lot of this otherwise excess fire, excess raga, that excess passion. See? So, and between this psychological understanding that the deepest rest is taking place in a deep sleep, what is the most important understanding here is that as awareness, you don't sleep at all. It belongs to the mind only. That's all. So in deep sleep, mind is withdrawn into the mind. Pranas are withdrawn into the heart, mind withdrawn into the domain of the causal. That's what it means. So it no longer revels even in the content of thoughts. There are no individuality, no identity per se. It's the domain of unconscious. Some teachers foolishly attribute that to state of being. This is incorrect. It's not a state of being. It corresponds to the mind only. All relative states of consciousness, dreaming, deep sleep, and waking state, are only in relation to the mind, in relation to individual, even if individual is not experienced in deep sleep, because it's in the state of unconscious. You see? But witness, as it were, of that remains. So analyzing that by simple inference restores that understanding that you never slept. Sleeping only happens to the body and the mind. But as awareness, you don't sleep. And I recommend this, a radical approach, only to those who are amidst of true awakening. To recommend that to someone who is a sleepwalker, it's almost like inconsistent, an oxymoron. You see? It's only applicable. It's like a kind of a potion that doesn't work for anyone else. It's like, this is pure water, nothing added into it. This water contains nectar of immortality. I'm going to drink it now and I will never die. Watch me. I'm immortal. That's it. That's it. There and then. Why? Because I said so. This water is the nectar of immortality. So pure, translucent, transparent, transcendent, better than the tea, even better than the sake, the best of it. And on top of that, it gives immortality, there and then. See? So you can't give it to anyone. Anyone would like to taste immortality? Who would like to taste immortality? It's here in a cup of infinity. And yet, in those in whom there is a process, they understand that intuitively. No? It never failed. Transcendental meditation teachers came to me in secret in the earlier years, working with people, initiating this and that, not having their own sleep, on sleeping pills. Horrible, terrible, very, very side effect producing sleeping pills, because they surrendered to that. Why? Because there was active pranic, phase of that pranatana, and they didn't know what to do with it. You see, they didn't know what to do with it. In the movement, nobody told them, because maybe it was like swept under the carpet, maybe it was more like a taboo, or maybe something unimportant. Nobody brought it out into the open. But I worked with people back in the days when I used to go to Uzbekistan more, and in England, and whenever I started to go out and teach, I was astonished how many people who are supposed to be exemplars of awakening suffer from these conditions, and they resort to sleeping pills. See? So, and the first will be this quick protocol, rule of the thumb. Number one, Brahman never sleeps. You never slept a wink in your life, and you never will, because this is also the nectar of immortality is linked to that, you see, because this coming and going of life force doesn't affect the reality of my essence. I never came into this life. All this is in the domain of the Kanchukas. This is all starts from the sixth tattva. It's the Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti makes me believe that I'm in this body, walking around, have Russian background, Cossacks, let's do some, Rasputin dance, right? No, they don't call it Rasputin, it's traditional Cossack dance, but because Bonnie M had the song Rasputin, and whenever you put that Cossack dance, they have, have I lost you all? No? It's a very, very physical dance, very, very physical, requires a lot of athleticism, Cossack dance, you see? Because you're always in squat position, like that, and you throw your legs up like this whilst balancing on another leg, and then they spun it on the Rasputin song of the Bonnie M, and there we go. It's called postmodernism. So this is all there is. But of course, you need to do everything you can to minimize any excessive strain on your physiology, on your neurophysiology. So obviously, you do it by every nook and cranny, implementing every nook and cranny. So you have equipped with this understanding, this penetrating understanding that only intuition can touch, that in reality, this coming and going of relative states of consciousness, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, 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 waking, dreaming, deep sleep. That's not who you are. This is coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. But what illumines it all, what strings them all, is your awareness. And that awareness doesn't know sleep, doesn't know hunger, doesn't know pain. This is the understanding. This is what we really work with in the monistic systems from the perspective of the Atmast reality, applying highest upaya. But then, of course, we prop it up at all levels. And these levels have been mentioned earlier. And I will just conclude this by saying that you can certainly use and find out what beverages work the best for you. You see? Some of them have more tamasic effects, so shouldn't really be habitual, because you can also get addicted to healthy drugs, right? Nature's pharmacy. So you have to use it sporadically. Like, for instance, nutmeg is a natural sleeping pill. Nutmeg. Have you tried nutmeg? It induces deep sleep. Try it. It's beautiful. Just don't use it for 2 weeks in a row and then take a break. Nutmeg is a very powerful inducer of sleep. But it has tamasic qualities, just like poppy seeds. Poppy seeds are natural sleeping pill. I remember when I first came to Poland when I was in my early 20s. And in a cafe, I was served this poppy seed cake, which was this tall, huge. It was black, practically, soaked in cream, traditional poppy seed cake. By the time I finished eating it, I was about to lay down and sleep there and then. It was so working on me. But nutmeg is better. Nutmeg is truly better. And of course, seasonally working with appeasing vata, right? In the winter cold time, those favorite silk woolen socks, rubbing soles of your feet with some oil, sesame oil, will insulate the vata. Wearing like a nice beanie hat, right? To keep vata in check, right? These little things, little nudges that all gets you insulated, more comfortable in your sleep. Tulsi tea, see? In the evening. So all this should really be of help altogether. So the most importantly, you don't start creating this tension that you're not resting enough because of the process, because this is counterproductive.